Shall we begin?
So it begins. And now it begins. So it begins.
And so it begins.
Shall we begin?
Shall I begin? Shall we begin? Shall we begin? Shall we begin?
All right. Hello, everybody. Good being back. We are live this time. We're not recording privately like you've seen with our other Scream takes so far. What's up? Joined with Justin Proper. Again.
Hi. What's up?
Boy.
How you guys doing?
Heck yeah. I'll catch people up just in case you're not aware. So I watched Scream for the first time. I binge watched pretty much the whole series leading up to 6 and then saw 6 all last week and watched most of them with Justin here as well. So he's a big old screamer. That's what I call Scream fans now. And I thought I was going to hate
Screamers.
I thought I was going to hate this series, but I freaking love it. I'm a big fan of Scream now. This is my jam. I love it. And number 5, the longer I've thought about it after watching it, the more I don't really like it as much. But, there's still things in it that I think are okay. And then seeing number 6, I loved the first half an hour. And then for some reason, I don't really like the rest of the film after that. But I will definitely need to rewatch all these films again at some point because I only watched them once back to back one time. So
yeah,
my thoughts are still clouded. And I don't have like years of thinking about it or like just thinking about the plots or what ifs or rewatching anything to understand whatever. So there might be things that I've missed entirely and I will have to go and watch them again and figure that out. So
yeah, and that's what people are dealing with Scream 6, because with every Scream movie that comes out, at least now, like since 4, like in the age of the internet, if you will,
yes.
A lot of people when they watch a Scream film, it takes a couple of days or it takes a while to like digest it and just be like, okay, how do I actually feel about it? Especially if you only watch it once. But if you go ahead and see it again, it's definitely helpful to, especially if you're a film reviewer, to find out exactly how you felt about certain aspects of it, like the big moments.
Exactly. And thinking about that, like just thinking about the first film, for example, I was like thinking back on it, like, well, wait, so if they killed Sydney's mom and they're trying to kill her, and if it was all like talked to them by the guy that we meet in the third one, why'd they do the scene with the girl in the beginning from Drew Barrymore? Like, what was that? What was that? But I think it's mentioned somewhere in there that was Stu's ex-girlfriend, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the first film. And you can find little nitpicks of all of them, like why was Ghostface in the grocery store? That's the one thing that I find like just it's very nitpicky. But here's the thing about movies like these: if you like it so much, you will look for little nitpicks just to see, okay, this isn't a perfect film. There are little flaws in it. Like it took me 10 years to realize, oh, Marty McFly says like sorry instead of sorry. Michael J. Fox is Canadian. And I'm like, yes, I finally found a flaw.
Sorry.
I found one flaw, one real flaw.
Well, like true. Yeah, I would say true, but a nitpick, I think, only counts as a nitpick if there's a valid criticism that is really small, doesn't affect that much. So when I'm thinking about like the first one with Drew Barrymore's thing, I'm like, is that a flaw or not? Because if there's something, if there's
flaw at all,
but that's what I'm saying. I was out in my head, I was thinking this was a random chick that they decided to attack, but then thinking back on it, I'm trying to remember. I think they mentioned that that's related to Stu. And that's why they wanted to start with that. And then they're going to move on to her. And it was like, okay, so there is a connection here and it's not random. And this does still make sense. And therefore not a flaw, not a criticism. So boom, exactly.
It all makes sense.
Runner in the chat here. What's up? Says, hey dudes, watching Scream 6 tonight. So I'll catch the replay later.
He still hasn't seen
it. Yeah, he set up the stream to discuss it before he saw it, but he's seen it now, so it's okay. That is the idea.
You have a good time, Runner. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, hopefully, yes.
Yeah.
So when we watched Scream 5 twice, it got worse the second time. Well,
it does get worse with more viewings. Yeah, I agree, but we're not here to talk about those movies.
We've already talked about those quite a bit on our recordings, which will be posted. The rest of those will be posted after this. But yeah, Scream 6. Scream 6. This is a year after Scream 5. I assume that's in the movie they acknowledge it's about a year, right?
Yeah, it's a year, and all the kids who are like Jenna Ortega's age, because Melissa Barrera, her character Sam was born 96 or like 97, so she's older than them, obviously. And then everyone else is like Gen Z, so she's just moved to New York and doing like 2 different jobs to support herself, which sucks, but like, hey, that's cool and everything. And she's protecting her younger sister in these dorms that are like apartments, whatever. That's awesome. And with this, one of the things that bothered me was that so many people who were interviewing all the cast, they were like, oh, this is the first time it's taken place outside of Woodsboro. I'm like, did you watch the other movies? Only 3 of them took place in Woodsboro. The other one took place in a college town. So I get it. What they meant was smaller town. But like
Scream, I thought they're going to say this is the only one that had nothing to do with Sydney. I thought is what they mean, right? Like
no, they said it's the first one that took place outside of Woodsboro, which is incorrect. But like the first time that they utilized the big city and the location to their advantage, where he's like Scream 3 only like used film sets and a couple mansions. Didn't really utilize like the Hollywood sign, like they let's say Ghostface threw somebody off the Hollywood sign. That would be gruesome. That'd be cool. They didn't really do that at all. They just took place in smaller locations. But yeah, this one takes place in New York, and that's about it. The kids literally are just like, let's get out of Woodsboro, let's fly all the way across the country to go to college there because it's going to be safer. And Gail is there, and we'll talk about Gail. But yeah. You mentioned the first 20 minutes were like the first 20-30 minutes were absolutely amazing. What did you like about it?
Yeah, I mean, it started off already with like they're doing the phone call thing, but it's at like a bar, so it's in a public place rather than you're just at your home by yourself. So this was already
sets the tone of
already a different start. And you could say, oh, it's in more in the modern age, and it kind of is. I think it was implied that they're trying to meet from an online date, on online
Tinder.
site. Yeah, they're trying to meet up, and it's like, okay, that's all right. And I was trying to really pay attention to the dialogue because I'm like, okay, they're like talking about themselves, but is this needless dialogue or is this like, okay, no, this is information that we get for later. She's a cinema teacher at their college. I forget what specifically.
Slasher films.
Yeah, slasher films. But I mean, I don't know if the job title is cinema teacher, but something like that.
Yeah. And film studies professor. Yeah.
Film studies. Yeah, exactly. And so the guy is like seeming that he can't find the place. And so she's like, okay, well, I'll go outside and figure it out. Seems like she doesn't frequent there either. So she doesn't know how to describe it. And then he's like, oh, yeah, I'm just down this alleyway. It's a little bit like, okay, sus a little with that. Don't go down the alleyway, which I'm glad she didn't just stroll down there right away. It was more like he says that he's like, oh no, there's a guy here. Oh no, he's coming at me. Oh, threatened. And so she's just hearing this and getting concerned and then going into the alley, regardless of how stupid that would be. But she thinks that this guy that she meets is about to be in danger. So she's trying to find him, which in a way can make more sense over her initial like instinct to not go down the alleyway.
Yeah.
Like overrides it. Somebody might be hurt over here. Okay, let's go. And then, oh no, then the voice changes to the Ghostface voice of like, you stupid cinema teacher. What are you doing? Just walk down a dark alleyway. And it's like, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to leave. Okay. Gets stabbed right there. And then what I also loved, what I thought they were going to do, because they showed the blood go on the ghost face on his face, I was going to be like, oh no, it's going to be one of those sequel movies that's like, we're gorier than you've ever seen before, and just like, that's not the point, right? But
yeah,
now then he takes the mask off. I was like, oh, yes, yeah. You're showing it, like, because you told me, like, before we watched Killjoy Jake's fan film, that's what we need to see in a Scream movie. It's like we keep on trying to guess who the killer is. Let's have one where the audience knows who the killer is and the other people don't. That will make it far more engaging to see what happens with the characters and stuff. And you're right, it is.
Yeah, for like that opening, that 10-minute long opening, and then what happens was very interesting. We get a real good look at well, what the killer does with the body, and going back to his apartment and living his life. He even bumps into Tara when she's going to the fraternity party, which is like, oh, he knows the characters. Oh, this is going to be interesting. And then he goes back to his place. His partner calls him, but it's not his partner, it's somebody else. And he finds
well, before you get to that part, the important thing is that because, like, we see him interact with Tara after we saw him kill the other person, is that, well, so it's not some random copycat here. It's like there is, the person, one of the people that interacted with the Ghostface experience before, that moved to this town, like, it is in the same town here. Like, that's no coincidence. So there's some connection to that already. Maybe they're planning to kill her later. He even makes it sound, when he's talking to the buddy on the phone, that this was like a warm up. But the other person seemed like a little disappointed in him, like, you weren't supposed to do this right now. So.
Yeah, because he gets a phone call, but it's like Ghostface, but and it's supposed to be his roommate, what he thinks. And it's like, why'd you kill her? Oh, she fuck that
Give
bitch.
me a C-.
C-. Like, a C-. Okay, so you got a bad grade. That's not why we're here. Like, you don't just kill random people because that defeats the purpose. Like, no pointless kills. And that leads into the motives behind the actual Ghostface killers, which is like, this is personal, not like, we're not just playing games here. Like, this is different. And so he finds they play a game of hot or cold, and then finds his roommate, Jeffrey Dahmer style, in the fridge, all cut up and dismembered, which is like, it's really,
he got fridged. He got fridged.
Then he gets stabbed. And he's like, oh, what about the movie? What about Richie's ending? It's like, who gives a fuck about movies? And then I'm like, yes, this is great. I love this. It sets up the movie. It sets up the tone that it's going to be different. We have a much more engaging opening, a longer opening than I think most of the other ones. It's only like 5 minutes. And I think this easily, at least for the opening kills, that this easily is like top tier. Like, this is if at the very least, it's like second only to the original one.
Well, because it's like a double, triple whammy in a way. This would be a perfect example of, because people don't like to always say that a sequel version is better than anything the original does, but it doesn't have to be necessarily better. But I'd say, considering this comes after the original, it's on par with it in its own way, because it's not copying it directly, and it's making changes. Well, I mean, it's doing the same thing of the phone call and then kill the girl, essentially. But like I said, but it adds more to it so that it's not the same, and the whole setup is different, of course. But that's what I'm saying, is that you're also comparing it to the first one, not the other ones. Right?
Also, don't you think it's kind of weird that you're kind of, in a way, in agreement with Ghostface? Like, why would you kill
fuck this guy?
Like, why would you kill your teacher because of a C-? Like, Also, like, why exactly would the warm-up be your hot film studies professor? Like, that.
I feel like that'd be one you'd almost want to be a final girl at some point, or at least finish off later, like something like that. But but it's a little weird though. One thing, if we're gonna, now I think about it though, does she not recognize her students on the Tinder app or on whatever app, or was it a different face and voice that he used to?
Different face. I don't know if it's the same voice or not. Maybe slightly different. I'm not sure.
That would be a criticism if it was like, you don't you like matched with your well.
Well,
I don't
Scream
know.
3 has that voice changer thing.
Well, that's I guess my thing at that point would be, how did she match with him on there specifically and
well,
actually work?
that's not important.
Because
That's
I
not
see.
important.
I know that's not important. But I'm just saying that'd be, if I'm gonna have a criticism, it would just be like how lucky it was that the person that he wanted to do this with happened to be his own teacher that he was able to match with online, and she
Well,
actually responded to messages and then was able to go on a date.
don't worry about it.
And because in real life, that women get a whole bunch of them, and the odds that it's your teacher and she'd say yes and go to the, that's a
Yeah.
big old thing there. So that would be
Mhm.
my only gripe, but that's the type of thing that is small. It's not the biggest thing, because there are probably ways that you could say that it's manipulated. I mean, the fact that they can get the ghost face changer voice things all the time. I mean, there's different ways in the modern day you could probably stage something like that. And considering her age, she might not have used an app at all. It might have been something else,
Right.
for online dating, sort of, or for meeting somebody. Could have been a friend suggestion. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the opening, but yeah. So for the rest of the movie, I don't think we should go for like a plot by plot, like step by step thing of like describing the whole movie, but because most people who are watching this have already seen the movie, they get it. So I'm curious. Really, like, that opening did need to be discussed, but I think, like, if you're gonna find some nitpicks, you will find them, but overall doesn't, yeah, you're right, it doesn't take away from the quality of that opening and how brilliant it is.
Yeah.
And how it managed to do so many things that people have been wanting so long, like something different, something else. And even the fifth movie that did something different, because Jenna Ortega, Tara, survived. Everyone dies except for her in the opening, which is kind of cool. But again, we're not talking about 5, but it does give me a good insight of what these creators, Radio Silence, that they're the ones who are making 5, 6, and hopefully 7. And it gives me a good idea of what they're capable of, and what kind of ideas that they have that are outside of the box, outside of the realm of possibilities, that make Scream refreshing, which is good, which is a good thing. Sometimes it doesn't work at all. Like, a lot of 5 does not work.
A lot of people were taken aback by the opening of Scream 4, right? With the Scream, with the stab, with the stab 6 and 7 thing, and then the thing, like, that's a risky start.
Yeah, probably the weakest part of the movie for a lot of people. But I don't know, with the rest of Scream 6, there are things that I really, really enjoyed. Like, I really loved I love the kills. They were awesome. I love how Ghostface is you feel like the acting in Ghostface. Like, a lot of times it's just like, okay, it's the guy in a mask, and it doesn't match necessarily like the specific character that it's supposed to be. That's because a lot of the actors don't know that they are Ghostface, and they're played by somebody else. That
sometimes there's more than one Ghostface in the story too. So
yeah. And what's difficult for me to see, here's the thing: when the killers are revealed in a lot of these movies, I am just questioning, like, okay, what exactly, like where was this person at this time? Where was that person? And there's just, I have so many questions with that, because Ghostface is portrayed by a stuntman, and it doesn't feel like the character underneath. It just feels like Ghostface, which is sometimes the point, but it also takes away from, like, it doesn't help me suspend my disbelief. But in this one, if a lot of the kills are, by the way, spoiler alert, guys, the detective is one of the killers. I can see him doing most of these kills. I can very clearly see him, because he's a trained officer, do a lot of these things, and being able to handle a gun, and just having a lot of stamina to and having a bulletproof vest, all these different things, that just, it makes sense. And the fact that plot twist is this is all Richie's family. There are 3 killers revealed at the end. They're Richie's brother and sister and his father, which is very, very interesting to me. It does feel like it's repetitive of 2 a bit, because Mrs. Loomis was the killer, but no, instead of like the mom and like another guy she recruited, it's like the whole family is doing this, and it's the way that they set it up. It just feels like very convenient, but at the same time, this is like a group effort. I don't have too much of a problem with it, except maybe because one of the chicks is dead, and that just, I don't know, man. It confuses me the more I talk about it. But nevertheless, it makes sense that these people are Ghostface, and it feels personal. And Ghostface is ruthless because of that. And I also like the further character development of the core 4, if you will. I like that a lot more. I do not like how they wrote everybody else.
No, I mean,
anything on what I just said? I know I rambled, but
yeah, that's okay. I don't know. I honestly don't like the Ghostface identities on this one at all. Like, I feel like it was one thing to have Richie be kind of crazy and want to do that, as well as with the other girl in the last one. But it's like, okay, like I think it's getting a little out of hand if it's like, okay, it already happened. I feel like it's almost like a Death Star kind of thing, where you already had it once and you're like just doing it again, kind of. Where it's like, okay, so what was the actual? Was this your first idea, or did you have like other ideas? Because it seems like you just kind of went with, well, they like that one, so let's do that again. That kind of feels like to me. But let's add one little twist that there's a third one, and that's like that feels like what it was.
Well, every other movie they had 2 killers. So
yeah,
they're
but
like,
yeah,
well,
no,
killers,
that's
not just 3 killers. Let's have 4 killers, 5.
Yeah, there's that, and I feel like it's just okay. Well, we can't copy everything, but let's have it be that it's related to the killer of the last one, and that just seems like okay. So now in this universe, you've got, I don't know, because by the time I feel like at some point it's going to be okay. If there's ever a third time where the next killer is related to the killer in the last one, what are we doing?
It's getting redundant and repetitive, and that's one of the things with Scream that it's kind of towing the line, is that it is kind of repetitive, and all these, like, Gail has been through this 6 times now, and it's like, okay, how many times, like that? What are the odds of it happening twice with 2 different lunatics? What are the odds of it happening 6 times? Never. This does not happen. But that's the thing. This might be a terrible argument, but it's a movie. Like, this is make believe bullshit. Like, we can suspend our disbelief for that, or at least I can, and I'm cool with that. But it does get to a point where this is not the kind of series, because of the way it's set up, that you can run it forever, and I totally get that.
Yeah, well, I think that if you were to, I mean, I think there's a way you theoretically can, but there would have to be things that would change throughout it if you wanted to keep it in this universe, essentially. Like the Ghostface persona alone, I'm kind of not understanding why this is what people are choosing to do. Like, they want to get revenge for Richie, and he apparently super loved the Stab movies, I guess. So, but it almost seems like he loved the real events more. This is actually also where that gets weird. It's like, so he liked the movies, but he has like the authentic real life related stuff from actual crimes.
True crime related.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where they're going with that. And then he's like, the dad seems like more insane than his son, I guess. And so do the siblings, to just go along with it, and they feel that way too. It just seems like, how is his family this insane? I guess.
Well,
with this.
It's one of those things where it's like nature versus nurture. I would imagine, at least you would think at least one of them would be like, fuck this. But because I think it's more of a parenting issue. I think, because I mean, because the dad is so insane, it's very easy to believe that all the kids are insane. It's probably why the mom's not even in the picture, because she's like, this guy is nuts.
No, I actually don't understand that. It doesn't. It's not. Insane isn't genetic. And
no, I know, but it's also how they are raised, and I'm assuming
right,
because they're all nuts.
But what do
they're
you?
all
But that
psychopaths.
I don't know though. That seems to just be an assumption though. Like we don't actually get information on how they were raised or what they went through as kids or anything. So it's just that's a headcanon that might work for you, but I don't know. For me, that's not enough. It's like I need a little more than that because then I'm kind of writing their story for them to fill in that
I understand,
blank.
but you know, it's not always like the filmmakers. Well, okay, I understand what you're saying.
No, I'd say it actually is important to be their job here because this is the 6th film in a franchise, and with how strong a start they had, I like as we talked in we're talking about this before recording today. Like it seemed like they had a decent type of setup for a potential like killer in this world that wasn't like related directly to the other stuff before, but that can still connect enough dots that it can be effective on characters that we've had previously.
Yeah.
And with this, it just seemed not as creative to me. It seems very, here we are. Here's these killers again.
I think the problem that you're having is that you wish that you would have followed the killers for the entire movie. That would have been better.
Sort of, but if it was the same killers that's in this one for the same reasons, I don't know.
No, but if it's I mean like the guy from the opening, like if it had nothing to do with the detective or any of those dumb kids who are, only become characters when they're revealed. They'd like do nothing in the plot at all. They're like, that's a problem that I have. Like, okay, so when it comes to characters, the only ones that are actually kind of well done are the core 4 that come from, the one before. The team has done a pretty decent job with that. But when it comes to the newer characters, it's the same problem as we have with other films. They're just bodies, or they're the killers, and it's like, okay, whatever. It's just.
I can only identify them as the Asian lover.
The Asian lover who dies like after getting almost gutted and still living and not bleeding enough, and then goes on the ladder, and then I'm like, okay, and with her death, like I didn't feel that emotional impact because it's supposed to be like Mindy's girlfriend, and we don't spend enough time with her and like those two at all. So it's just kind of like, what was the point of that? Like, why do we care about this chick? We don't. If it was the chick from the last film that she's making out with on the couch, like, okay, at least she was in that one. Maybe that has a little bit more.
I feel like even then that's still thin because there's no development with that either. Even if it was the same one, it's like I said, this could have been the same one. I don't know, but
who cares?
Yeah, they're so thin in the first place. It doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah, what only matters is that she's a body and she dies epically. Like that. Like I get it, but at the same time, like, why the characters are supposed to feel grief, and I'm supposed to feel bad for Mindy, but I don't, because she could just get another girlfriend. Like, I don't know.
So I guess this is my problem too. So like, you saw it twice now, right?
Yeah.
Why was the father and siblings going about their murdering the way that they did, other than their son liked stab?
Other than their son like stabbed and he was killed, by Sam.
I meant their motivation on how they're doing their killings. Like they could just simply kill Sam, but they don't.
but why do they go through like the step? Because I don't know. It's something about like psychological torture, like taking out some of your friends first, and I don't know.
That's Asian girl is.
Well, that's collateral damage. I don't know. They wanted to take out like Chad and
no, because it seems like he's working. They're all with the roommate, and the friend is with them. And
why don't they take them out all at once?
It's just I don't know, because it sounded like the cop's perspective was, you kill one of mine, then I will kill you, kind of thing. And he seemed pretty simple with that. It doesn't. I guess just my whole thing is just like I don't understand. It made more sense enough for some of the other ones to go about being Ghostface, but I on a second rewatch of them, that'll be something I'll be thinking about. It's like, why did Billy's mom specifically want to do the Ghostface thing? Same with Mickey. With that,
That's
like, why'd they
yeah.
choose to also do the Ghostface thing based on the connection to last year and Sydney's in their school and stuff? But like, is that like why copy that? I guess.
When it all ends with you dying, and it never works.
I mean, that's not the conclusion I think
Well,
they would
yeah.
get to with it. But it's just why specifically choose Ghostface, and why do the what's your favorite movie stuff for some of them? That made more sense in a way with the third one to me because he's a director. Kind of confused why Billy and Stu would approach it in the like when they call Drew Barrymore and like do the what's your favorite scary movie thing, like
they love movies and they wanted to make a movie. Like they wanted to be like the sole survivors, and they wanted to carry on to plan the sequel because that's like face it, baby. These days, you gotta have a sequel.
Did they ever
I
say
don't know.
anything about anything after with Sydney? It just seemed like they wanted to kill her.
That's one of okay. Now we're getting into critiques of the entire franchise.
No,
Again,
but that's what happens when you dive deep into the current movie you're in. That's the sixth film into the thing. I'm looking back at why certain things happen in some of these movies, and I'll be looking at them more critically when I give them a rewatch. We don't have to go deep into those, but like that's if I were to do a criticism on the sixth, they might ask, well, what about the first one when they did that? Well, let's take a look at it then. If we want to look at it, does that even make sense?
That's a great point.
Like,
that's a great point.
That's what I like to try to do.
I saw that Killjoy Jake had tweeted out like, "Hey, like all these complaints about Scream 6, you can apply that to every other Scream film." That makes perfect sense for me. What's up, C?
Yeah, to me that says, well, then I think there's more about the other Scream films that we've got to criticize. That which is fine. Again, it doesn't mean that we're gonna hate them now or that we're gonna hate the movies now. It's just like you critique the things you love the most, if anything, and within the critiques you can find more praises and positives too. When you're looking deep for problems, you can find, oh well, they actually did this really well though here. So that's what I think.
All right, if we're gonna do that, okay. Scream, why did they do the Ghostface thing? See, the Ghostface thing, I honestly don't care. I don't care.
Just, okay.
I don't care about that. That's part of the movie. They don the Ghostface costume. They have the big reveal. That's the formula. That is what it is. And
do you think they should all stick to the formula?
That's why we go and see these movies, because they're fun. They're great. And what's fun is the mystery aspect, and also like having twists and having cool deaths, and also good character development. And for a lot of these films, good writing, because as we were talking about some of the other films, it doesn't seem like sometimes it doesn't feel like this is just a slasher movie. Sometimes like it's like mystery, or it's like a love story, and there's an overarching love story that happens with a lot of these movies, with Dewey and Gale. And the movies with Sydney, it's about her overcoming her trauma and becoming a strong, independent woman that a lot of these feminist writers can take notes from. And this is how you build a good, strong female character.
Yes.
Honest to God, like seriously, that's how you do that. And there are a lot of different things that you can praise, but also nitpick as well. For example, why does Billy and Stu stab each other in front of Sydney before?
I feel like they should have at least injured her more before doing themselves in.
They didn't do that at all. Yeah, like really, they didn't do that much. Maybe stabbed her once.
And I guess another flaw with some of these is if you had somebody like bound with tape, and then like you want them to be framed for the murder, even if you untaped them and made it look, put the weapon in their hand, like they could still see evidence on the dead body that they were restrained for some amount of time. And so like that's a thing that they find out with like, chokings and stuff too. It's like you can tell that there was pressure on certain points. So I don't know how that would work, but again, that's going deeper into
they're teenagers, and
it's something. It's actually just when there's something that's that good for movies, like digging this deep into trying to find something wrong is a compliment. Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's shit or anything. It means, well, this is a little harder to fully make sense of. But then are the characters super geniuses where they would figure all that out? I don't know.
No,
probably not. So if there is that mistake, well, then we'll look at what happened anyway. They didn't get away with it. They thought they could. Maybe they would have been caught. Maybe the cops that find it or detectives would have been lazy and didn't care, wouldn't have noticed. Whatever.
And some of the other killers they think about these sort of things. Like Jill, we see afterwards her, like, she thinks she killed Sydney, and so she goes through like, okay, I'm gonna make it look like I'm getting attacked and how the evidence is gonna be staged. She is a smart killer. She's awesome.
An excellent detail from that film is when she has the dead body of her ex-boyfriend and has his nails scratch on her cheek, because if she scratched herself, they could tell that was her own DNA that did that. When they look at the wound, and she's like, okay, well, there's all these knives. I gotta get cut. Gotta get stabbed here. So shoulder, shit, and make it look like more of a tussle and whatnot.
Throwing yourself on the glass table.
Yeah, but let's get back to Scream 6 here, though. Sorry, that was my own fault for tangent.
No. This is actually a good thing, because we see all of these. A lot of these complaints that we have about Scream 6 can easily be applied to the other films. So maybe the greater conversation is that the fault of this movie, or is that the fault of the way this franchise is set up?
Well, that's why I would ask you, do you need to do specific things in a Scream film for it to work? Like,
well, this film, I think, presents the fact that you don't always have to do all of the same things. You can go outside the box with that. There are only a couple of things that you really, I guess, need to have, but you don't even need that. You like having the rules, but you don't have to have 1, 2, 3 or anything in Scream 4. Yes, I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
Well, do you have to have the rules though? Because to me that only applies to me that specifically applies to something to do with movies, because the killer likes movies, I guess. And then they go, "Oh, we're living out a sequel, a trilogy, a thing." But I don't know. That made more sense. That made far more sense for 1 through 3 for me, because the killings were technically more created together, even though the second one was technically more unplanned. It wasn't scheduled for it, but like the way the events rolled out, and
4 was its own thing, which makes sense. But then 5 was like, okay, there's these lunatics who are like snowflakes, as they're said in the film. He's a snowflake little bitch. So I forget what Sam says still, but like the way he describes Richie right to his
elliptic man baby or something.
And here's the thing. I think that the problem with what people have with the last film applies to this, because again, the people who are watching it, they think like, oh, this is toxic fandom and stuff, and so they're talking about us who criticize films. No, they're not talking about you. Again, like people think it's an insult to the audience who are like upset about Star Wars. Can we put that narrative to rest, please? Because this is getting ridiculous. No, they're not talking about you who don't like a movie. They're talking about insane people who take it a whole different level. As we were saying, is it okay if I said what we talked about?
Go ahead.
The example that you gave. Like if Tim Possible, if we found out that he decided to murder a bunch of people, we would disavow that. We would be like, no, Tim's a crazy person. We do not we did not know that was going to happen. I don't know if we contributed to whatever debauchery happened, but no.
Right.
This is not us. He does not represent us. And we only say that with Tim because Tim's a fucking nice guy.
Because he's the opposite of insane. He's literally one of the nicest dudes around. So, if we're like, oh, he's Ghostface, be like, wait a second, what? okay, it's a little different now.
Right,
Stuff,
right. So like,
yeah, that's our point there.
Yeah, so it doesn't. It's not exactly like a criticism of like this whole community at all. I really don't think that because we're better than that. We really are. Like there are people who are batshit crazy. We've met a couple of them, and we don't talk to them for a reason, either because they just have dropped off the face of the earth, or they're dead. this is a real thing. That I'm not joking about that. But yeah, it's just, or we just don't talk to them anymore. But the point is like that this has nothing to do with us. So again, could we please drop this whole like this is an attack on fans?
As far
narrative.
as I heard that more with the fifth one. With the sixth one, I haven't heard too much of that. For this one, yeah,
I think it was adding insult to injury, is what.
How some of them, but to be fair, those ones didn't even watch this film, so.
Yeah. Here's the thing: like, if that's your stance, okay, great. But if you're going to criticize a movie, you have to watch it. You can criticize the trailer. You can criticize like this is why I'm not going to go see the movie. I don't like what I've heard, and I don't want to like pay money to see it. That is your right. That is your choice. Okay. But if you're going to say, oh, this is what's wrong with it based on just what you've heard and you haven't seen it in context, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
That's my take. And I am seriously getting sick and tired of people making these complaints because they're just absolute nonsense. And again, if this is something that you actually feel after watching the movies, let's talk about it. That's cool. If you think it's a bad movie, all right, but this isn't an attack on you. That's just how I feel about that. Yeah. And if you do feel like it's an attack on you, then there are other problems.
Yep.
But yeah, going back to Scream 6 though, what did you think about the further character development of the core four? Do you think that was done well, or?
I don't give two shits about the brother and sister at all. Nothing they do makes me care about them. I don't know. They just, it's non-factors to me entirely.
Nothing?
No, not at all. The sisters, I think, are okay though. I suppose their development, they're doing things that I wanted them to do with Sydney a little, or at least show in some of the Scream films. That was one of the things that's in the beginning where they show that Samantha's going to therapy, trying to deal with it, but she's not dealing with like, oh no, there's all these dead bodies and all this horrible things trying to kill me. She's more there for like, she is the daughter of a serial killer and killed Richie and was attacking her and all. She did it justifiably, but she really liked it. Really liked killing him. So there is like, she's dealing with
this whole narrative of psychopathy injected like genetically. But that sort of with Sam, it makes sense. And in this film, I actually liked her more than I did in the last film. In the last film, she didn't have, I don't think she had enough development to where like I actually cared as much.
There's more exposition in ways that didn't feel as natural as to where in this one it felt a lot more natural. Like it was driven by emotions of scenes or what people say that trigger it, and it was like, okay, this is it was working a lot better here. Okay.
Yeah, I will say I agree with half of what you said about the Meeks twins, the brother sister. See, I don't feel like they really developed Mindy enough at all. They just kind of were like, she's the rules person, and she is witty and sassy and stuff. And after she gets stabbed, the next day she's running around. I'm like, oh no!
I was actually confused on. I was like, was this supposed to be in the film? Because she should be in the hospital, but then also, wait, so the brother killer didn't like make sure she was dead. Why did he have her?
There were two of them there. The brother killer, and then the sister was the one who stabbed her. And I was like, what the?
But yeah, it's like, why'd you let her live here? Why'd you choose this location then? That all was a little funky to me too. And she lived, and then she's running. She just runs into the scene. Like, Huh?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, she was stabbed multiple times, and like she should still be in the hospital, like Gail. So
Yeah.
that's the thing that I just am really conflict. But she should have died there. Now, also Chad should have died, but
He got stabbed like 50 times. You know, shink, shink,
like
shink,
yeah,
shink, 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 shink. Were they all like barely scratching the surface every time they stabbed him? Like just
they were just
little pokes, nothing,
probably
nothing too deep.
they probably weren't too deep. But like, here's the thing though. Yes, he should have died. Absolutely. Would I have been sad? I would have been devastated. I'm like, no, that's the one person that like who was returning. That like, if you're gonna kill off one of the 4 characters, please don't kill off that guy, because like this franchise for me this franchise has a big problem with the male characters staying alive. And I'm like,
you wanted a final boy.
yes, I wanted one guy. I wanted Chad, and Chad is like the nicest Chad ever, and he's so like.
Hey, the first film had a final boy.
No, yeah, and he's dead in the next one. Then Dewey bites the dust in the last film, and I'm like, okay, those are my 2 favorite characters. Like
Dewey was alive. He was the final boy in the 3rd one.
No. Eventually they all die. But I'm like, no, I want Chad to live because of this other random dude who has no personality other than I'm supportive of you, Sam. Again, the new characters have like no personality really. Like
there's nothing unique about them that makes me like, you know what? That character.
Yeah.
It's like, they're around. I don't hate them, but I don't care. I don't notice that they're gone or here. Like,
unless they're the killer, then I'm like, oh yeah, I'd notice.
Non-impactful to me.
Yeah, and and the thing is, like they do pretty. I think they do all right with the. Now that I think about it, the Carpenter sisters and Chad to a certain extent, they actually do something with Chad, which I was happy with. Did it feel a little forced because they need to have a love story? I don't know, because there's trauma just brings people together. All right. That's a theme in this franchise. And I'm like, okay, is it as believable as Dewey and Gale? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. Did they even have like a real scene together in the one before? No. Was there any romance like there? No, not at all. But I still found those scenes to be kind of believable. And I'm like, okay, it made sense.
It would make more sense to me if they were more, if the 4 of them functioned more like a little family of like brother and sister, not any type of interrelationship. That it's not always needed in these things, you know.
Yeah.
You don't always need to have them date each other.
You really don't. And maybe in the next film they'll realize that, and they'll be like, oh, okay. But then it'll be like doing Gale all over again, but they're trying to do it as opposed to having it naturally. But see, with Chad, I just think like I learned more about him and what he stands for, and that he's like goofy and he's like fun. He has a good personality, and I'm like, this is the kind of guy I want to hang out with. He's like, I actually enjoy Mason Gooding on screen. With Mindy, unfortunately, she's just used as a plot device, and I wish there was more to talk about with her. And if any of the 4 were to die, it would probably be her on the subway. Like that would.
But like that's the thing too with Mindy. Like she's there to be the Randy character, I guess, right? She's related to him. But I feel like this film, especially since this film was trying to be different, I feel like this could have done without a scene where they address rules, because this made no sense to me. I'm like, the franchise aspect has no, like, I thought the whole point of them addressing that was that, like, insinuating that the killer is sort of implementing the rules of events, essentially. Like the first film, they had kills that way. The sequel kills are sort of like that. The 3rd one, trilogy. Fourth one reboot.
Remake.
Yeah, and then
remake,
5th one, requel, and then it's like
reboot.
sequel to the requel. Oh, the Luke Skywalker did this, and the other films. It's like, I'm sorry, at this point, I don't think that matters to the parents of Richie or to the family. Like they want to get revenge. That's their motivation. Fuck.
Yeah, who gives a fuck about movies?
They're doing, like, if anything, I get like same like with, if you're to ask why Billy's mom did it, it's like, well, because one, her son did it, so there's that, and then maybe she does want to scare the shit out of the survivors of that one that were present, Randy and Gail and Sydney, and like, okay, I want to get out and do it. I want these fuckers to shit their pants thinking about how I'm
Yeah.
gonna fucking kill him.
Well,
And
Mickey
she
also
seems
wanted
she
to have
seems
him.
she seems psychotic in her personality.
Well, you
though.
also have to take into account Mickey, and she's like, okay, well, you know what? My goal is this, but let's let you, Mickey, have a little fun.
Okay, yeah, maybe she wanted to be more direct about the killing, but then Mickey's like, no, you can't just kill them. This got to be fun.
He's a crazy film student, yeah.
And so that could be that explanation. When it comes to this, I mean, the only thing that we can go off of is that Richie liked the stab movies. And so the dad, out of respect for his son, stages a lot of these things but it's one thing to have him stage the killings, but like, I don't understand how he'd be like, so we're going to do killings that of which like a franchise. Like, I don't
think that crosses his mind at all.
But it's like, but that's what Mindy brings up as the rules, which is why I feel like this isn't needed at all. It's like a scene that addresses the rules, because that's what it was for. But all it did was just have accusations at each other, and that's it. That's all that's for. And I find that because this film was trying to be different, you didn't need this. You didn't need this, is what I think. That scene could
have a little powwow again, like we did in the last one.
That scene could have been something different, is all I'm saying. They could have replaced that scene with better development or some other event that gets them to accuse each other, something else.
And it had a purpose in whatchamacallit, in Scream 5, like that little powwow scene, okay. But it did not really play as big of a role in this one. It just felt repetitive. It felt like the same speech. I think you're getting it. Like it follows the same beats. Like this is even Luke Skywalker or even Star Wars. If you compare the two monologues, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of the same thing. So it's in some ways it's repetitive. In some ways, it is the film's very unique and does a lot of different things. That I think maybe while I'm still contemplating it, because again, these films take time to really digest and really get the full picture of. I think while there are a lot of things I like about this, there are some things where I'm like, okay, you had that great opening kill, but you did nothing with it. Do you feel like this is like the definition of audience pandering in a way? Like, this is the things that people have wanted for so long, so let's give it to them.
Oddly, no. I did not get that sense. I feel like Jurassic World, that series, is audience pandering.
You think so?
Kind of. Like, in a way. Like, they're like, well, what if we did the park, but it worked? And then what if there's like just all this gruesome death and whatever? Like, they think they're like, in a way where they think they're giving the audience what they want.
Right.
And it's just like totally not what anybody fucking wants, kind of a thing. I don't know. I can't. What things would come to mind for audience pandering? Because I don't know. I guess it's hard to ask me because I don't know. I don't know what everybody wanted. I have no idea.
Well, first off, having 2 killers for the longest time. Now we're gonna have 3, and it does. Like let's have more than 2 killers because this is getting old. Like, okay, we'll do that, and then we'll also have like more than 3 killers. We'll have like 4, 5.
Fuck. To me, that's exactly why I don't think the number of killers should matter. I mean, you could do 2 killers forever, as long as it makes enough sense and can be compelling enough. And maybe if the goal each time isn't to figure out who are all the killers. Like, I think there's ways you can easily do this where it's always 2 killers and it's just fine.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. So like, to me, having an extra doesn't equal, well, now they fulfilled a checkbox that makes it good. To me, that's fine if that's what you wanted. But like, for me, that would never satisfy me. Like, I'd say, okay, you got 3. Yeah. Now impress me though. If you don't, you got 3. Congratulations, you did the bare minimum. Now what? Like,
it's like, what do you do with it? What do you do with that opening, which is a great opening, by the way? And and what comes of it? What do you do with it later in the movie?
Yeah,
Like that.
like
That's
when
not a
I
problem with the opening itself. It's just that it
yeah,
doesn't really
when
serve too much of a purpose later, aside from like they're like, oh yeah, those two guys, yeah, they tried to kill you. We were teaming up with them, but they were like doing senseless killing. So we're like, okay,
yeah, they had to
let
explain that in the middle of their monologue to
they
the,
always
and
explain it in the
it's just like,
monologue.
well, no, I'm fine with having monologues, but
Yeah.
they had to explain the very beginning scenes with the two that were dead. Be like that was their only connection. It was like we were gonna have even more of us, but we had to kill those two because they were being dumb, huh? Okay, now that's done. And then it's
They were
just
a
kind of like
liability.
they had no reason to like, because that's what I actually don't like about this, because them being in here was pointless. That the end, like the scene at the beginning becomes pointless because they had no relevance to the story.
Hmm.
I mean, the only thing that could be is maybe I feel like maybe the detective, I guess, utilized their deaths and like had that be the first calling card to Sam to
Yeah,
get her
with the
aired.
mask, like, hey, I have all the masks, and I'm going to leave it at each scene, and that was sort of that's why they have like all those different
But yeah,
deaths.
but I'd say it still wasn't necessary. Like it seemed
No,
like he could do something else regardless of this. He just was like, well, I could use this as an advantage for myself and do this. And like when we talked about before, what I thought they were going to do was when the killer was like, oh, talking to him on the phone, he's like, you killed her because you killed, well, you got C minus. And this is ridiculous. It's not why we do this. And then he's like, oh, what about the movie? Who cares about the movie? And kills him. I thought it was going to be more like there's like a Ghostface person trying to be Ghostface because he is a serial killer anyway, and it hasn't been popular. Like this is just an idea. It wouldn't have to be this, but like a serial killer that isn't as popular or is known for its killings. And then he's like, all right, well, I do want to be remembered. I love the way that it feels to kill her. Something with this. And so he takes on the Ghostface persona, and he's trying to have a little team, not necessarily to equal him, but I could see him maybe a killer wanting somebody else to understand the feeling that he has when doing this act. And so he's trying to see if other people can feel it too. And the ones that he feels are the weakest threads, then he'll just set up for way for them to get killed too. So
okay,
it doesn't matter. So maybe they even kill. There's a scene, like let's say at the end of Act 1, where our people kill Ghostface. They kill one of them. It's like, oh, this person was the killer. Oh, okay. But then there's another one,
like midway through instead of the opening, like,
yeah.
or yeah,
Well, no, you could do it like this too, where the Ghostface killed the Ghostface. But I mean, like also later, where we think, okay, so is this killer that's attacking them the only other Ghostface with this, and he's the last one left? Oh
yeah. What
no,
if
there's another one, but it's set up. But if it were set up a little bit better, where the implication is that there is obviously more than one who does have a goal, and then we can figure out what that is as we go, or maybe it bleeds into the next film, where at the end of this one, there's not a full resolution, other than maybe they understand exactly why it's happening, because it's different than the other instances of Ghostface. Like, have some other revelation at the end that isn't the same formulaic one, maybe. I don't know. That's what I think about when breaking formula, because like they're at one point they're being a little more risky, and then at other points they're being extremely safe. And
yeah, and
that's my problem.
speaking of which, all of the returning characters survive.
Yes.
So yeah, none of the core four die. Gail doesn't die, although we think she dies. And honestly, like that was a point where, like, if you kill off Gail in this movie, I probably would have walked out of the theater and not given the rest of the movie a chance.
Well,
like almost, but she was done so dirty in this film and had reverse character development that it was frustrating.
Let's talk about the characters now, since we're on this stuff. So let's talk about Gail.
Yeah,
I, for one, have been kind of peeved off with what they've done with her since the fifth one, to be honest, as well.
Yeah.
But like her character in general was kind of annoying to me. But over time, like by the end of the third one and in the fourth one, I thought by the fourth one, she was a solidified. She's got some pretty good character here, and with Dewey, that was working out quite nicely. They did the fourth one where they weren't divorced or separated and stuff. They were together for like over 10 years and they worked it out. Even though after the first film, then they separated, and after the second film, they separated, but they finally like tied the knot at the end of the third one. It's like, okay, good. So you're not going to do this back and forth shit again. Nice. You're past that part. You're on to the new part. But then in the fifth one, it's like, oh no, they divorced and then Dewey got killed and whatever. Okay, what? And then now we're here. And like at the end of the last one, she said that she wasn't going to do any more reportings on this or do any more books for fame like this. But no, we
does. Thought she moved past it.
She does less than a year later. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, and and when they were questioned about this, when Courtney Cox was asked about this, when the writers and directors were asked about it, it's just like, this is the most Gale thing to do. I'm like, what do you mean? That's the only. That's the old Gale.
And then she changed, and then she went through events that changed her. What are you fucking talking about?
It's just called character development, and this is now reverse character development.
It's like when they say that Luke throws his lightsaber in Return of the Jedi to not kill Vader, and that's the same thing as when he throws his Jedi in the last throws his lightsaber in the Last Jedi.
Yeah,
it's like these are very fucking different contexts. What are you talking about?
Yeah, like it doesn't. With Luke, it did not make sense. With Gale, it doesn't make sense at all either. And also, she has this boyfriend who has like two scenes. Like, no, one scene.
Wait, move on quickly, Whiteout. That's less than a year ago. And she should also have another wound. She got shot in the last film too, right? And stabbed. Like, she should still be kind of recovering a little. Less than a year later.
About a year.
By the way, so should the little sister. I'm thinking about it. If the time is less than a year. That's a little fucking. Imagine you'd still be a little limpy, a little.
Yeah, and also people were questioning like, is Chad gonna like lose his football scholarship or something? Nope, he's fine. But I don't know if he's on the football team, but he at least gets into college.
This will be a good thing to keep track of when we watch the seventh one. Is like, okay, y'all have been stabbed, fuck ton. Y'all have been shot.
And you get up right away.
Are y'all fine? And are y'all just totally fine? Like a year or two later. Because I think even if they healed, like I would just imagine with it being a short time after, if you were to like get punched even in those spots, like there'd probably still be some bruising or pain that is just from that alone, or just doing your day to day would hurt a little more. Like, something. There's show some sign of injury. It's like, no.
They did that very well with Scream 2. Like, Dewey has a limp. Randy has a scar.
I was so proud of that because I was like, why is he walking like an idiot?
And then they severed nerve.
They mentioned
it. The third one, they ignore it. Fourth one, they kind of ignore it too, but he's a little slower. But
he's slowing down. He's breaking down over these films. It's physically. He's not able to do everything he was, which was a good detail, though. They, for the most part, kept. And I don't know. So with Gale, she felt like the husk of a character, and honestly, I think I don't even know why the fuck she was here. She's here to do the reporting thing. So like, oh, she's gonna do what we know. Or I guess a better example is that she's like what they thought they should do with Han Solo. They're like, well, after all that development that happened, well, what do they do? Oh, go back to smuggling. I don't know.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's why like the writers are great with Sam and Tara, I guess specifically, and they're okay with Chad and Mindy is used as a plot device, but everybody else, like especially like the returning characters, I think we talked about this. Like they don't know what to do with Gale. Like we need to have Gale in here. But do you really? Like that's why I'm like kind of glad Sydney wasn't in it, because I'm like, what else would they have butchered her as well? Would she be the same thing as she was in the last film, except she was barely in the movie. I feel like if you're gonna move on, like go ahead and move on. Like yes, and you don't, and that's the thing. Like just because these characters survive all the time, like doesn't mean you don't have to kill everybody. But that also doesn't mean don't be afraid to kill off some people, because some people are going to die in this and should die.
You've got to have
infuriating, and this
write them out of the next story so they're not involved. Otherwise, it just seems like weird threads they're doing here. And with Gale, so like she's there, she's only here, it seems, to get a false death and to be like, hey Sam, I called so the events. I will describe this scene because it's fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So Gail's there trying to report on stuff, and she met Sam and Tara in the last film. I don't know if they had like any actual dialogue. I don't remember.
Sam did.
Very brief at most. But they're acting like they're friends in this film, and I guess I could believe that they'd keep in touch because they experienced a Ghostface thing together. Sure, but like Gail's there, and Sam seems shocked that she's there, and like, oh, you made a book thing, and then she tries to punch her, she dodges, and then she's like, hey, I've been through this before, and then little sister punches her. She's like, okay, and then she's like, yeah, what about Dewey? And she's like, oh, that was a low blow, but she's right, like fucking obviously, you fucking bitch. And then she's like, and then Sam and Tara are about to leave, and she's like, wait, I called Sydney. Like, she's not coming here, is she? She's like, no, she's taking Mark and the kids to somewhere else.
Yeah,
and then Sam's like, okay, and Sam
had no chemistry.
and then Sam's like, okay, and then they leave. It's like the only point of this scene was to be like, hey, audience, y'all remember Sydney, right? Well, she's we couldn't afford her to be in the film, so like she's not going to be in the film, but she's not dead, so.
Yeah, so hey, it's always room for possibility. Oh god, but I did like how I said she deserves like a happy ending. I'm like, yes. You know what? Yes,
she
but
does, but the dialogue's retarded to me because why is it in a film?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to address it, sure, but like you don't.
Gail doesn't need to be here.
The only time that you needed to mention Sydney was like when she was like kind of dying at like when in her scene. It's like tell Sydney like he didn't fucking get me, which is like great.
Yeah,
and
like,
great that
just for psychological stuff because that would have driven Sydney there.
By the way, the scene with Gail, like that could have been the only scene in the movie with her in it, and I would be fine with it. Like, and that the dialogue in that phone call was very personal.
It was, but that's I don't know. This is what I feel with this. I have to rewatch it again, but it's like I don't know. I feel like why none of these serial killers are connected to her very well.
She just happens to be there and reporting.
She's present when they all get killed,
and she's a fame seeker. Like that's kind of in her. And I guess the only way for this to make sense is because she lost Dewey. That was her only like anchor. But
I wish there was more connection with like people being aggravated with her. Like I don't know. I wish there's something else where. Maybe with the death of Richie or that like if the parent was angry here that like she wrote some horrible stuff about Richie and that's partly why but there needs to be more development and time with this kind of thing. You can't just have it be mentioned and that's fine because it's so weak. It comes off as very weak and like when she was here she had to come to this town and be here.
Well, she was in New York already
but she wasn't in the area. She didn't seem to be. I'm in town. It'll be a half an hour away. Like it seemed like she had to go there because now that she's here, then she's a target for.
No. Hold on. Well, go ahead.
Well, like because why does she get attacked?
She lives in New York, and. The kids who are the Sam is like the main target. They all go to New York, so she just is there.
New York is a big place.
Yes, but I would imagine around one of the same boroughs. I'm not sure because they don't really talk about like.
I don't see why they would be actually because the Sam and them moved locations. It seems like they. This is what I'm confused with too. They're not friends with Gail, and they're friends with Gail. So I don't.
They're not friends. They just let's keep in touch.
So why would they want to be like? So they just coincidentally moved to like the same town.
It's not really a coincidence because all the three who were in high school and going into college, they want to get out of Woodsboro, understandably so. So what did they do? Move to the other side of the country. They go to New York. That's the best school they can get into. Okay, great.
No, the other side. They moved to the other side of the country.
Yeah,
and it happened to be in the same area that Gail lives.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying is fucking ridiculous to me.
I don't think that's that ridiculous.
And because this goes to my further point of why is Gale a target for this?
That's a
And this like all of this is connected to my point, which is like this isn't necessary at all. She doesn't need to be in the movie, is my point. She has no purpose to be in the movie.
Yeah, and even when like all those characters are like in the van and they're like they even say in the shrine, they're like, Gale, this doesn't involve you, this is police work, go away. Like they literally Kirby literally says that. I'm like, why did you say that?
She was very like, to reinforce what I'm saying, she was very directly connected in the first 3 films because she's one of the reporters that was vehemently against the trial for the person being accused of killing Sydney's mother. And so that's already one. She is a very high advocate saying that he's an innocent man. So that's her personal opinion based on what she believes. And like, that's what drives her. Second film, she's also directly connected with that stuff. I mean, she was present during the whole killings with all this because of this whole thing here with all this history.
Try to clear the guy's name.
Exactly. And then then that guy gets killed in the third one. And this is also around a Hollywood set where they're making movie events about the Ghostface stuff.
Yeah, they're taking creative liberties there, and
I'll base it somewhat inspiration from her books or something, right? Like I don't remember specifically, but yeah. And so so she's directly tied into those movies. And with the other one, it was in her town of Woodsboro, right? Did she live in Woodsboro or
in Scream 4?
Weren't they? Yeah, because Dewey was the sheriff there, and she lived there too, right?
Yeah. They lived there, and
that's their hometown. That's their hometown now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So
she's involved. Five Dewey is there, and he calls Sydney, texts Gale, and Gale goes there to report. Yeah, but because it relates to her, but also Dewey is there, and she is mad at him for saying that there's another killer through text.
But she wasn't even a target. She was driven into the events because of Dewey's death. Otherwise, she could have fucked off.
Because of Dewey there, he's not dead yet when they meet in 5.
Right, but no, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. She wasn't she was not a target.
She wasn't.
She was present at the final killings because of Dewey's death. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been there.
Correct.
And so that brings me again to she has no involvement in 6. There's no reason for her to be here. Other than they have no idea what to do with this character, and they thought they needed to have her here, and she has no purpose being here.
Yeah, it's just by mere coincidence she happens to live in the same area, which I don't have a problem with. I do question some of like her. Like what her motives are. Like I get it. Depression does a lot of things to people. We see Dewey is like it's there were some deleted scenes in 5 that like clearly show that Dewey's an alcoholic. Like he was present in the bar.
Well, I mean, that seemed kind of obvious with his living situation. He had a bunch of alcohol on his counter.
That's I'm so glad that they didn't include that particular scene. But yeah, at any rate, she lost Dewey, which is like her anchor, even though they had been divorced for some time. She still loves him, but I feel like you do bring up a good point, and it does seem like her purpose is gone after the loss of Dewey, and Dewey was the only thing that connected Sydney and Gale together, really.
Yeah,
like that was the only thing. Like Dewey was the mediator between the two, and
otherwise they would have hated each other.
Yeah, and by killing him off, you destroy that. The whole thing is now falling apart for these remaining legacy characters, and I get it. And the more I think about it, the more I think it does. Why I feel like 5 is so damaging to the franchise in a way for these characters like that we've spent 25 years with, and it sucks. It does, but that's not to say that they still don't have a purpose at all, or a role that they can play. But the question is, should they play it? And I think if they can write it better, go for it.
Yeah, I would say if they made it in ways that made sense, that's totally fine with me. But
Right.
from what they present and what we have before us, there
Yeah.
wasn't any reason, and they just kind of contrively put it here. And her death and her bait death, I just think that scene also just all could have been better. It felt empty to me. It did not. I didn't. It was not filled with emotion. It was not filled with, oh no, our character that we like is dying here. It was just like, it kind of felt like there's one of those, hey, there's a legacy character around. Well, let's tease about killing him in this one, huh? Okay, that's all that was to me. There was no connection to this.
Yeah, it was not necessary. It was a great scene on its own. Sure, like if this was like the opening, I would have been all for it, maybe too. But the opening that they had was better. But yeah, and same with Kirby. Kirby had a greater purpose, and she had her presence made more sense to me. She's a detective now. She's part of the FBI. She specializes, I guess, in Ghostface killings. Even though where was she in 5? Whatever. I guess it happened too quickly. But this we have more time, and she's able to be there. I don't care about her being in the FBI at all. I think it's fine. But she also had Hayden Panettiere. This is the reason why she was in the film. First off, it was kind of left to the imagination, and Wes Craven said, "Oh yeah, Kirby's alive." And
as far as we were concerned, she was dead.
Yeah, as the audience, if you don't have any of that context, yeah, she's dead. But there's still she's one of the few victims where it's like, if she was alive, okay, that's cool, but what do you do with her? And she does play a very important role in this, and I like that she is involved in it, but at the same time, there's something missing from that character a little bit. There's something just a little that doesn't quite hit it, and it has nothing to do with Hayden Panettiere as
if we look at what she accomplished in the film,
she was a red herring for a second.
Yeah, she's there, and she has a tracker that helps them find
the detective who's the killer.
And then and then she's there.
She didn't know, though. Yeah,
and she gets shot and another baited death. And I feel like that character could have had a lot more to do. But
yeah,
no, this is what I mean. I think Kirby would have had far more use in this if we're going to go that route than having Gale in this at all, and could have had more time with Kirby to flesh her out and have her make more sense in this story.
Yeah, and we only get when they go to the shrine and everyone has their little powwow moments. There's 4 of them in a row where individual characters are talking to each other, and I'm like,
yeah.
This is slowing down the film a lot. It's good. It's good to have some of these moments, but to directly say, "Oh, I felt empty inside" and stuff like that. Who are you again? To these people just met.
These people aren't connected
know
to
them,
you,
but they don't know each other.
When she goes, I was stabbed as well, so therefore that's our connection. We are related now. Apparently that's how it works. But I feel like this goes with my
fucked up family.
This goes more with my theory on what would have been better if they had the Ghostface thing by this point be taken more seriously nationally rather than oh, it's just a silly little serial killer thing in a little town. It's no, this keeps on fucking happening, and there's almost a dozen dead bodies every time this happens. This is not okay, and the killers are usually killed by the end of it, but then there's another one later, and it's this is a huge concern. So the FBI is involved, and the one leading it is one that survived it. This could be interesting. For all they know, there's a serial killing fucking cult out there that is able to do this now. The other ones being more connected directly to the survivors and events of the other films, but these could have been serial killers inspired by it, but what I mean is they were already serial killers, and then they want to take the Ghostface persona because it's popular, and so they'll get more attention. Maybe there'll be movies about them. Maybe other people will understand the way they feel, and even if they get caught and aren't killed, they can talk about it happily and just be oh, here we are, here we go. Make it put a little spin in this universe of what the fuck. Okay.
Yeah. So here we lead into a theory that has been going on for so long that I don't know if you'll have a problem with it or not, because I don't know if we talked about it.
Okay.
So all of these problems can possibly, if it is written very, very brilliantly and have it make sense, and this is what they're teasing in the films, they have teased that Stu Macher is alive. They have teased that time and time again, but they've also shut it down, but keep the door a little open. Now, I know it would be too
he was
obvious.
confirmed dead here.
I know it would be too obvious, but it would make sense if like Stu has rich parents. They afford that awesome, nice house in California in Woodsboro. You know, we saw that in Scream 6 that the detective just like kind of swapped the bodies and stuff and had his daughter survive and, you know, become the killer and stuff like that. And it was very messy. You know, and money speaks volumes, blah, blah, blah. That can make sense if Stu were alive and he happens to be living somewhere, whatever. It is possible, and it would make sense to have him as sort of like a leader of cult ghost faces, which would kind of make sense as to why there are a bunch of kills and a bunch of killers over and over and over again. Some of them, as you said, directly related to the survivors, and some not so much. Maybe like in this film and the last film. So I think, and maybe he wasn't like a ringleader in like 2 or 3, maybe. Obviously, there was more Roman to Collateral Damage that had nothing to do with. Okay, cool. But with these later films, I do think that if there is like a subreddit that Amber and Richie met on, and like who started this, like who is like the moderator on that, who is behind all of this, who wants to continue these things, and who wants to feel how I felt like killing all these people, the one who would understand. And it is, as we have seen, Kirby survived even though it was a couple stabs. Stu can be alive. That has been established. It is possible for Stu to be like revealed as one of the
big twist. Maybe she knows he's alive and she's covering for him, so she says he's confirmed dead or something. Like help confirm he's dead for sure.
Yeah, like death 1996. That's like supposed to shut the door, but also like there is still room for possibility. But
he's in fact Stu's been privately getting built cybernetics to have
I don't
stomach.
think that's the case. You know,
that'd be like that'd be a funny parody or something, like a what if things like, oh, let's.
I don't know if you're on the Stu train or not, but get on board.
No, I'm not. Not really. I guess what I meant was more of a natural developing one that wasn't directly related to what happened there, because in this case he's dead. Essentially, if he's dead, then I think that based on all the stuff they've done in this universe, there'd be people that, if anything, could latch onto it, like to satisfy their own types of things. But this is when I feel like the whole phone call thing would not be a part of each of their persona necessarily. I don't necessarily understand why that continues, other than that's just because that's what they do. Other than that, I don't really get it.
Yeah, but the cult of Ghostface sort of thing can make sense, and Stu being alive as their ringleader can make sense, and that would explain why there's all the phone calls. That would not solve all the problems, but it would have it all contained and make sense.
That would, and I feel like if anything, it would be really difficult, because the Ghostface costume is just it's based on the Scream art, so it's like that guy screaming, and so it's like this was already a thing before there's a serial killer attached to it in their universe, so it's like anybody can just have one. And that's like they showed on Halloween too, all these people were in Ghostface masks, and it's like, are they going to pull them from stores at some point in the thing? That would be interesting. That'd be interesting. Like that'd be interesting too if there's a Scream movie where like a good, probably not half of it, but even like a good third was like court dedicated, like legally, with something like discussing the cases, because anybody could put on a mask from like the same mask that actual killers in their world have used. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like I imagine if there was like, let's say like if there was like a stormtrooper helmet that let's say like 20 different serial killers that different over the course of 10 years were wearing while killing people. I imagine by the 10th year they'd be like, okay, so for some fucking reason, specifically with a stormtrooper helmet, people are going insane.
Yeah,
So
and
whoever we
like,
sell a stormtrooper helmet to, we have to be extremely like keeping the records of who that is, and fuck the privacy. We are going to make sure that there's no fucking killer getting their hands on a goddamn helmet, like with
yeah,
this thing, which could be arbitrary, but just might be something that they'd explore because it's consistent. So,
well, for a while, that has sort of happened for a while, like on a couple of Halloweens after there was like a few years ago, there was like this clown epidemic.
I remember that. Yeah, that was.
I didn't see very much clown stuff in
videos, man.
Halloween stores after that. But so that's the thing they could do with 7. There are a lot of different things that they can do, and the people who are behind legislating it can be murdered because like the killers are like, no, this is our cult of Ghostface. You can't take this away from us. That would be
that'd be an interesting setting for a story, right? Or at least a background or something. Like while something else is happening, there's court stuff going on, and what the legal talk would be about it, and like having Samantha in it, who's the daughter of a serial killer, and
in the
like,
woke world that we live in, of course that should be a thing.
and then if they wanted to have Sydney in it, even if it was like even just on a video or something to use as a call, like you could even call it a phoned in cameo. But like if it was like
no
pun intended, but like if she gave her opinion on it, like what she's gone through this many times and was directly involved with her and her mother's death. The opinion of her could sway that whole thing in one way or another, and maybe the way she words it is like, it's okay if it's out there, like she can't be too afraid forever. So I don't know what the fuck they do with it, but her opinion would probably be very valid in that legal discussion. And and same with Gail, if she's alive with it, and that directly killed her lover there. So it's like there's a lot of this. There could be heated debates with it. There could be people trying to kill each other or intimidate people in the trial. Like, hey, one of the like lawyers is on their way home, or one of the jury members, and there's like 5 people in Ghostface masks that like beat the shit out of them. Like, I don't know, a couple stabs, not a kill, but like some stabs to intimidate, something like that. It's like,
you could have some sort of hearing like they have like on television sometimes,
or there's somebody in a Ghostface mask that or there's somebody in a Ghostface mask that gets his ass beat up by other people, but it was just an innocent person in it. Like,
right,
like this, you can't just attack people that are just wearing the things. It's like, but what about our freedoms? Like, there'd be a whole fucking movie right there with that. That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be, and I think that's that could be a possibility of where they go with it. But I don't want them just to do it just because we talked about it. Like,
well, yeah, but I mean, if they're gonna do things that are not good anyway, I'd rather them do what we talk about at that point.
I guess
like, that's my point, I guess. But I don't know. So I actually gotta go in a few minutes here. But
right, okay.
But so we've only been talking for almost an hour and a half. We've already done like a 2-hour discussion prior.
And that was not good.
And we still didn't even cover it. I think we had a lot of good points, but we had a lot of like tangents in between. I think we did that here today too. We had quite a few tangents that we went on. It's difficult to focus on just talking about this one film. This is like one of the first times that like talking about one film has made me talk about other films too so much, to compare or to come up with ideas or to.
But overall, this is not the worst. It's above 5 for sure. It's debatable whether or not it's better than Wes Craven's Screams. Maybe it could go up 1 or 2, maybe, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I feel like this goes right in the middle for me. But that's only because all these movies are so great, like that. It's very hard to rank them.
I have like 1, 2, and 3 are on like level 9 out of 10 for me. Just based off my first time seeing them recently and all back to back. Number 4 might be on that same type of scale, but the more I think about it, there's a few things I can pick out of it that I don't really like. So it's at like an 8 or 7.5 behind that. And then I don't know where 5 is. As much as I don't Oh, as much as I don't like 6, I think 6 has a lot more positives for it than I have with 5. So
Yeah.
for that alone, I'm putting 6 above 5. Like the first half an hour, it's like excellent for 6. So that gets a spot above 5. 5 has some ideas that I like, but ultimately I don't think it's executed well at all. I think the only thing that was done really well in that one, like really well, there's a couple things, I guess, but like, you know, the Jill hurting herself, trying to make it more of a convincing
That's 4,
convincing thing was good. And then Dewey, like the way that they approached setting up the rules in 5 was better, like you said, at first, but then it went stupid, where it's like sort of in conversation, he's like, you know, yeah, never trust the love interest. And yeah, he's been through this before. And so having him deliver some of the stuff naturally rather than just here are the rules, you know, makes some sense.
Yeah, and they have like a second sort of rule thing with Mindy, and that doesn't work as well. Like it kind of, but it seems redundant. But I think you could have just had with Dewey, and that would have been a
little more smooth.
Yeah, but I don't know. And also with this one, one guy gets one of the best Ghostface deaths was the guy getting stabbed in the mouth, but then he like comes back alive and he's like kind of screaming. I wish it was more like blood curdling. Like,
no, yeah.
I'm like, why is he screaming? He just got stabbed in the throat. Like, he should not be able to do anything vocally. Yeah. No, but overall, there's things that I like about Scream 6, some things that I don't like. But at the end of the day, this is what it leads to: a good conversation that's fun, and we love all these movies. I think I could say that we both love
this franchise. Is fucking awesome. I never thought I'd love a slasher franchise, but that could also be part of my biggest gripes with it, is because it does trope things sometimes, but that's also why some of it is good. It's such a conundrum for me, because other things I look at I don't like when they do similar things to this, but this does it right most of the time. So it's
and no Scream film, not even the first one, is perfect. Like
I don't know what the qualifications would ever be to be a perfect one, to be honest, but it's as close to it as you can get, which is why I had them at like 9s, because like it's like again, if I rewatch, maybe I had more shit to pick, but maybe I had more shit to praise too. That's why they're up there, because they're solid. If anything, they're at least solid. So.
Yeah, and you know what? If you could say anything to Radio Silence, the guys who are making this film, what would you say to them? Like if they ever happen to stumble upon this, what was one thing you would like to say to them if you could?
Take your time with the writing. Don't try to just do formulaic stuff, which is why the beginning of the thing was well. Make sure that the story is driven by maybe what characters would naturally do, rather than trying to do something because that's how you want it to be done, or because it's how fans want it to be done. That's why the beginning was so good as well, because the characters going through the therapy, doing their things, they're very paranoid. All their actions were very justified. And then at some point later in the film, it seemed to go a little weird, and the motivations of the killers it's getting kind of stale. And maybe don't focus on the reveal of the serial killer to be the one of the main hooks anymore. There's too many of that around. Too many whodunits in a row. And maybe you can have a whodunit disguised in the movie more subtly, that isn't the main focus in the back of our head. Who is the killer? Why are they doing this?
Yeah, like the driving force.
Yeah, if there's a character you don't know, but it's not as consequential, that could still be like, I could chew on that in the back of my head, but that's not my focus here. So something like that could make it interesting. But I guess that's what I'd say.
I would also say just like focus on characters, like, and don't be afraid to kill somebody off. Like if it makes sense, if it's natural, just go ahead and do it. It's fine. I know you like working with all of these people. I know that you like them, and it's very hard to say, sorry, we're killing off your character, you're out of a job after this film. Like it's not the point. Like the point is to serve a better purpose for the characters, for the movie, and don't be afraid to do it. And it'll be fine. I'm sure everyone will understand. I know you liked everyone a lot, but yeah, just take your time with this one. Don't do it next. I don't want to see it next year. Just take some time, make it really well done, and that's
2 or 3
all I want. And I want a good I will say this though. I don't want this to go on forever. 7, that's it. That like have it all come to conclusion in 7 and just have a good time with it, because this has been a fun ride. I'm even enjoying 5 and 6. I really like them. Not all the time, but some of the time.
Yeah.
Like they have some really great moments. Just take your time with this one and have fun.
Exactly. And with that, Justin, tell people where they can find you this week, because you'll be going a couple of streaming places. So where shall you be?
So tomorrow you can find me on Runner's channel, where we're going to be talking more about Scream 6. And then later that evening at 10 p.m. Eastern, you can find me on my channel with possibly Rookie and Zod, who and a guy named Mick Brooklyn. Zod and Mick Brooklyn were a part of last year's Real Conversation with Scream 5, where we had a debate on it, or we had a conversation about it, and we discussed what we liked and we didn't like. This one will be a lot more structured, and we have a special guest as well, Craven Something Scary, who is a big Scream channel, and he's very fun. He's a very nice guy, and I look forward to meeting him. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. And then Thursday, we'll have This Week in Bullshit. And I'm going to try my best not to talk about Scream there, because it'll be very tempting. But you know what? It's going to be a good time. And that'll be Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And we're finally going to go live this time. Yay.
Hooray. All right. Return.
This was a lot of fun.
Big time. Hell yeah. This just proves we could talk about Scream for a very long time. I am surprised, because it's like Star Wars type of conversations that go on forever.
I could talk more about Scream than Star Wars, to be honest.
This is impressive. So yeah, we'll continue this on other streams, people. I might make a video with much more condensed thoughts in the future, and I'll see you later.
Bye.